Hello, everyone, and welcome to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and today's show is pre-recorded. So it'll be have a premiere later on today, and that will be at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time, however you want to look at it, and that will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So just join in then, and that you'll be interacting with the pre-recorded video segment from today's podcast. And if you're tuning in, listening to the podcast, check it out wherever you find it best suited for you. There's lots of options to choose from. Today is the Rant and Rave session, part one. Stay tuned to part two. Just watch the feed on your YouTube channel where because I really encourage people to subscribe, like, and share the content. If you like the content, definitely please reach out and contact me or myself if you also want to come on to the show and talk about lived experience. Today is definitely about lived experience. There's lots to pile in on today's show, and so we're gonna get started on Rant and Rave part one. And today I'm going to be ranting and raving on the BC election. It's October 19th, so I really encourage people to get out and vote. Vote for who you feel is best suited to represent your concerns and what you want to see changed in the province. There's we got the leader for the NDP, BC NDP, David Eby. We've got the leader for the Green Party, BC Green Party, Sonia Furstenau. And we got the leader for the BC Conservative Party, John Rustad. Now, piling into, I'm going to really just pile right in here. Looking at their platforms as an overview, BC NDP, we'll start with them.
What platform? What
platform exactly? I'm platform for people with disabilities is like what I'm looking through
It's
their
like
platform.
a big fat zero almost.
Yeah, like I'm looking at it and there was nowhere to find it at first. I had to go all the way down to the bottom of the page.
It's almost like a footnote, isn't it?
It was actually very inaccessible. Like really to try and find what I'm looking for.
It's like an afterthought footnote. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was definitely a part where it stood out about Handy Dart. Okay, I mean, great for people that need to use Handy Dart, but that's not for income. Like, I mean, income support to help people to get out of legislated poverty. There was nothing in their platform that actually says they're going to lift people out of legislated poverty. There was a part, and I'll do a screen, show it to our viewers on the screen in just a moment after I finish mentioning this. But so there was Handy Dart. And then there was another one about community living, basically for people living in the community living sector.
Community living BC, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're going to be helping the individuals living in that sector of the housing. Now, majority of PWD, they probably look at that and go, okay, great, that's great for them. Well, what about the majority of PWD that live in market housing right now? I mean, high market rents. I mean, cost of living's high. We all don't live in BC housing umbrella of housing. I mean, a small, tiny portion. And I know, Neil, we've dived into this many times, and we've talked about a small percentage, maybe 8% or 10%.
Somewhere around there, like
that number is
between 10 and 12, maybe.
Yeah, that number is going down and down more and more because the waiting list is so long. I heard there's like a 20-year waiting list.
Yeah,
I mean, to get in. I mean, wow. Because you got to meet all their policy guidelines, right? So we'll dive into that.
Well, part. let's stop there because like on a show like today when we title something Rant and Rave, of course the temptation is to just like, okay, we're gonna just throw a whole bunch of slings and arrows at everybody, and I mean, believe me, I'm tempted to sometimes, and I mean I'm like right up against the line sometimes when I'm doing shorts attacking David Eby, and I realize that. But for the most part, we're only attacking the policy, like bad policy, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
And if I sometimes seem like I'm attacking, David Eby or Sheila Malcolmson or whoever, it's only because the way they attach themselves to the bad policy. I don't want to see them either, whether it's David Eby or Sheila Malcolmson, I don't want to see them attached to bad policy. But at the end of the day, I'm still attacking the bad policy. And we should say off the hop, because I did a thumbnail for today's show. It's like an angry emoji face, you know, because we're talking about ranting and raving. And you'll notice the color of my shirt today, Brent.
Yes.
So what emoji do I look like, Brent?
Your emoji looks like shit.
Exactly. And why is that? Because we're going to be talking about shit policies.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about shit policies today, Brent.
Well, yeah, and the other policy that's actually in the platform that I saw, it looked like shit. It looked like, and I mean, nothing against whoever came up with the idea about it, because right now the policy, or what wants to get implemented in there, is about the Canada Disability Benefit. That's
the only mention of the word disability. They mentioned it one time, and it's tied to the CDB.
Exactly, and it's tied to DTC. It's tied to clawbacks. It's tied to all these barriers that is going to make it very troublesome for people to get into. It's also tied to household income. And so I'm going to do, I know what I mentioned at the top of the show, is I'm going to do a little screen share here.
Yeah, so that's the full extent, that's the 100% full extent of their disability platform. Three bullet points. That's the entire disability platform on the BC NDP. 3 bullet points.
You want to read those out?
So the first bullet point is increasing the community living BC home share rates. So that's great, but that's only for the community living folks, right? And then the second point is ensuring that people living with disabilities keep all of the new Canada Disability Benefit. Well, that's great too. I mean, the government should be doing that at the bare minimum anyway, and yet they want us to like fall over and kiss their feet like, oh, thank you so much that you're not going to be bullies and jerks and take it away, you know? And it's like, you know, like we said on the last podcast, it said the same thing. Like, why do you want us to congratulate you on that? Like, that is such a low bar. That is such a low bar to hit right there. And the last one is adjusting the spousal role to help lift more people out of poverty. And that's such a vague one. I mean, that's almost a nothing burger.
Very vague.
That's a nothing burger right there.
Yeah, so I want to dive into about the Canada Disability Benefit on the platform, on the BCNDP platform for persons with disabilities. So for people that are not aware, the Canada Disability Benefit was promised 4.5 years ago from the federal government to lift over 1.5 million people out of legislated poverty. It quickly changed a lot of wording along the way, 600,000, 25,000, and then went back up to 600,000, wishy-washy, heavily means tested. I'll be playing a few video clips coming up shortly in this podcast, just to kind of let people know where things stand on it. Right now, the majority of people will not qualify fully for that Canada Disability Benefit, or even qualify at all, because it is heavily means tested. Like I say, there's a lot of barriers involved. The federal government, the federal Liberals were warned not to do it this way by top advisors from the people in the disability community across Canada. You know, people with lived experience stories, submissions were put in. I mean, tens of thousands of documents. I mean, you're probably looking at over 100,000 documents in total, and witness statements. All the time and energy put into that, and again, it's about bait and switch, right? Because bait and switch, and some people are going to say, "Oh my gosh, Brent, why are you going down this rabbit hole?" Look, I'm just going to mention one thing here, and I try to stay as neutral as I can on this topic, because it comes down to advocacy, what I stand up for. I just want to have things better for every single disabled person in Canada. It doesn't matter which viewpoint, who you're going to vote for in the political party. I just want to have a basic standard floor that's going to meet people's basic standards. If you're a person with disabilities, your expenses are even higher. But we need to have a basic floor to work with here for income. If we're living well below the poverty, we're not able to actually sustain even rent, your basic standard of living, able to put money back into the economy. So when you got politicians that are battling back and forth saying, oh, well, let's raise the rates. I mean, no, do the right thing. We talked about this before. I mean, there was the federal NDP. I mean, and no fault of anybody, but you guys, come on, you guys actually voted. You guys voted for no more than $200. And now, I mean, there's mudslings and arrows getting thrown at you, right? I mean, I mean, we had one of the MPs coming on to the show, and thank you. Like, I really appreciate you.
She defended herself really well.
She defended herself
She defended herself really well, and
she did.
I thought it was. She explained it really well, like why the NDP did what they did. Like she actually did explain it really well.
She explained it extremely well, and that's what I want to thank her for coming on, and she's not giving up hope. She's not giving up on advocating to push the Liberal government. And of course, the disability community are upset, right? And rightfully so, right? Yeah. And I want the disability community to really understand. Like, I get it. Like, I know that you're upset, and you're probably thinking, well, why would you give her a platform to speak on? Well, if anyone wants to come on to the show and speak their lived experience stories too, like, I want to hear it, and so that the news hour gets to hear it, and the MPs get to hear it, and we can all work together to make a change and talk about your lived experience stories so that they can hear it.
Yeah, and and I know your answer is going to be exactly the same, because we have been attacked, but like, why are you giving this person a platform? And it's like, you know what? Like, I would rather we have this podcast that you've created, where MLAs and MPs and all of the VIP movers and shakers, they come on the podcast and give us the goods. Like, I would rather do that than not have an opportunity to talk to them face to face.
Oh yeah,
I think it's great. I think it's
fabulous.
Wonderful. It's wonderful that Bonita Zarrillo feels comfortable, and she loves the podcast, and she's she's advocating for us all the time, and yes, you can people can throw arrows at her if they want, and they do, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that she's willing to take those slings and arrows. She's willing to come on the podcast and have this discussion. And the fact that she's willing to come on a podcast like this and have a discussion, the fact that you have, people like Mike Morris wanting to come on and have a discussion, like who, and all
he's been advocating really heavily too.
Yeah, and all the MLAs we've had on, like, if they want to come on and have this, that's what you want.
Absolutely.
You want people to talk about it, not say, not piss everybody off so they don't want to talk about it, right?
Oh yeah, and that's why I like to have a whole broad range of different viewpoints, and that's what it's about. It's hearing people's viewpoints, and what do they want to see changed? What do they want to see happen? What are the goals to make things happen? And the podcast here is not all about the end result of these are action plans that have to be put in place. I mean, I always talk about, yes, I like to set goals, and then reach to have a final end solution. And one of those is to lift people immediately out of legislated poverty. Like, we don't need to have that in place. Now, with that being said, there's a video clip that I'm going to play because right now we have the BC election that's coming up, and October 19th, and the BC NDP reached out to have somebody on to represent the BC NDP. So
But
people,
maybe before we show the clip, I think we should give a bit of a backstory.
yeah,
Do you mind if I give the backstory a little
sure,
bit?
yeah, go for it.
So
While you do that, I'll get it all ready.
so the video clip is from Mike Harcourt. Now he was the BC Premier for from was it 1991 to
1996.
1996? Yeah, and he was it was back in '93 that he had this famous, infamous news conference. It was right for the news hour, like right in the dinner hour. It was like news at 6 or 5 o'clock or something, and like all these cameras. I remember it was like 93. I was coming home from university, and he had this conference, and it was like everybody on welfare is cheats, varmints, and deadbeats. That was his words. Like I'm giving a direct quote,
Yeah.
like open quote, close quote. Everybody on welfare is cheats, varmints, and deadbeats. And this came out of a mouth of a BC Premier. Everybody on welfare is cheats, varmints, and deadbeats, right? And we also have to remember, not only did he say that, but he was the architect behind. Well, first of all, he took away the the pension. Like people with disabilities used to have a guaranteed pension up until about 1991. So Mike Harcourt was the person that axed that got rid of the guaranteed pensions and said, well, we're not going to have pensions anymore. Got rid of that. He was the architect. He was the father. He was the father of the clawback, what we call PWD clawbacks today, where they claw back what are called unearned income, like pensions, like myself, the survivors' pensions. So there's that. So again, he got rid of the pensions for people with disabilities. He was the father of the clawback, right? And so, and then he said everybody on welfare is a cheat, varmint, and deadbeat. And you know what? If somebody says that, I'm gonna bring up a definition here, Brent.
Sure.
When somebody says that, those words, they are a bigot. They are a bigot. And anybody that doesn't know what the definition of a bigot is, I'm gonna explain what the definition is, and I'll prove to you that definition fits Mike Harcourt to a T, to an absolute T. Okay, so the first definition I have is just a generic, pretty generic Google definition that came up. The first definition that came up just by Google was this. Okay, so a bigot is a person who is unreasonably attached to a belief or opinion, especially one who is prejudiced against or antagonistic towards a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group. Okay, so that's kind of the generic Google definition. But then let's listen to the. I looked up the Merriam-Webster version of the definition. Okay, so here is Merriam-Webster's version of bigot. Okay, ready for this?
Ready.
A person who is obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices. Like that's so good. I want to repeat that again.
Yes,
Okay, so a bigot is a person who is obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices. And the second part of that definition, there's a part two, is especially one who regards or treats the members of a group, such as a racial or ethnic group, or we can also include PWD, with hatred and intolerance.
Oh, yes.
Let's repeat that again. With hatred and intolerance. Now, now my biggest problem with Harcourt, if that wasn't enough, that he called us, way back in the day, cheats, varmints, and deadbeats, and that he got rid of the pensions, and that he's the father of the clawback. You know, as if that isn't enough. The thing that really irks me is that he would always paint himself as like, I am the advocate for people with disabilities. Like he would actually paint himself. He would actually paint himself like, look at me. I'm like this really big advocate. Like kind of like what Michelle Stilwell did.
Oh, yes.
In her in her time as minister, like, look at me, I'm taking away a bus pass. Hooray! Yeah. I'm taking away a bus pass
$45
for equity
for persons with disabilities.
Yeah,
meanwhile, seniors still have theirs.
Yeah, I'm helping people with disabilities so much by doing this. You know, and Mike Harcourt would do the exact same thing. Anyway, so all this to say, and you're going to play the clip now.
Yeah.
I guess David Eby reached out to him, I guess, and said, "Could you please endorse me? Could you please endorse me as the potential next leader of the province? You know, could you please endorse me as the winning candidate?"
Yeah.
And so then you have this Mike Harcourt, the biggest bigot. Literally the biggest bigot in the history of BC politics, like bar none, right? I just read the definitions.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's the biggest bigot in the history of BC politics, and somehow David Eby wants to hitch his wagon to Mike Harcourt. And why is that? I have no idea. Why would you do that? Why would you? It's a kiss of death. It's a
yeah. I mean, now, like people with disabilities used to have a pension, like you mentioned, and now they're heavily means tested.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, it's like that's why we talk about pink unicorns, because magically it changes.
And like I said, he's the father of the clawback too. It all started with him. It was like, let's get rid of the pensions. Let's start with the clawbacks. You know, and like I said, David Eby is wanting to hitch his ride to this bigot. Like, does David Eby want to be known as a bigot too? You know, be a bigot. You know, be a bigot. Wouldn't you like to be a bigot too? Be a bigot. You know that. I mean, really, does David Eby really want to hitch his post to you know,
hopefully not.
Mike Harcourt, the biggest bigot in BC politics history? Anyway, go ahead and now that I've given you all this ammo,
I'll play the clip for everyone.
Play the clip.
Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Here we're trying to get
British Columbia want to see big necessary changes. Dave Eby's the man to do that right now. He's the person that has the capacity to handle the housing crisis, the access to medical services, and increase a lot of people's incomes, and deal with the fentanyl and the drug crisis. So he's taken on the tough issues, and he's got the intelligence and the thoughtfulness to see the right solutions and the courage to carry them out. I don't think that John Rustad can even come close to matching what changes Dave Eby and the NDP want to bring at. John Rustad and his conservative group would take us backwards instead of forwards like Dave Eby and his team. Good afternoon. Yeah. Welcome.
And again, like, why would David Eby ask Mike Harcourt for an endorsement? Like, why would you go out of your way to say, you know, I'm going to get a bigoted person to endorse me? I mean, that's just bananas. It's just bananas to me. Like, you know, like, does he really? It's almost like David Eby is like purposely trying to lose the election. You know, it almost seems like it, right? Like, let's pick the biggest bigot in the history of BC politics, and get him to endorse me. That's the winning formula right there. You know.
You know, I kind of wonder, you know, what was the reasoning behind, you know, behind. I mean, bringing up like an old premier that, definitely did not like people with disabilities. It was pretty shown that how that continued from that point on, and then it went through even after that when Gordon Campbell. Oh, geez, like hey, the Gordon Campbell era where when he got in 2001. And basically it was just kind of fast forward through that time. He started doing a clean sweep of people with disabilities again, right? Of course, if it was a pension, no, we would have been protected.
Exactly.
Because we weren't protected under a pension. And I guess that kind of leads into a guaranteed income supplement, how seniors have it. They have.
Sorry, Brent. I just wanted to pause right there because I wanted to go back to my shirt again.
Yeah.
My shit shirt, my shit colored shirt. And you're
policies. Yeah.
And you're right. You're right that you're very right to say that Gordon Campbell did some very bad things for people with disabilities as well. Like he did the whole reassessment thing, which actually, some people died. They committed suicide because of it, right?
They did.
So he had blood on his hands, literally, for that. The idea that you're not going to trust the medical opinion of doctors, you're not gonna trust the medical opinion of doctors and say, well, please have everybody reassessed because I can't. It's not proper for me as a premier to trust the authority of medical doctors, and it's just so bizarre. So you're right that he did that, but again, Mike Harcourt, it was kind of next level in that he was kind of the first one. He started everything, and we talk about copy and paste all the time.
Yeah,
and it's like. When Mike Harcourt said, let's get rid of the disability pension and let's come up with this PWD clawback. Like I said, he was the one that did both of those things. I can just see it in the legislature. Probably everybody going, "Wow, isn't this great? Mike Harcourt, what a wonderful piece of shit that you've made." What a wonderful piece of shit that it's this Polish piece of shit that you've made. And ever since that was 1993-94, that all of this, well, maybe it's I think it was as far back as 91 because that's when the pensions ended too. The disability pensions ended in 91.
Just after he got in, yeah.
Yeah, so you can just see everybody else going, wow, what, isn't this great? Mike Harcourt, what a wonderful piece of shit. And for the next 30 years after 1994, all the other parties have been polishing up the same pile of shit.
Yeah, Ontario did the same thing.
They've been polishing up the same pile of shit and going, isn't this wonderful piece of shit? Yeah. Let's add to this piece of shit pile.
Yeah, I'm not sure if BC did it first or Ontario did it first. That'd be interesting to dig into that.
Yeah, I don't.
Who changed the
disability
pensions into pink unicorns?
But definitely, when it comes to BC, Mike Harcourt is the father of everything shit. He was the one that invented all of this shit, and that's why he deserves the title as the biggest bigot in the history of BC politics. By far, bar none, he is the biggest bigot in the history of BC politics. And the idea that David Eby wants to hitch his ride to this, ghost of Christmas past and thinking that he's going to win the election by hitching on to this ghost of Christmas past, it's just so bizarre to me. It blows my mind.
I know, it doesn't even make sense, right? It's like putting, Gordon Campbell, might as well just put both of them side by side with each other, saying, "Hey, you did better. No, you could have done better. You could have gutted the whole system, right?"
Yeah. Well, they both had their own piles of shit.
Well, they had their own. Yeah, they both had.
My point is that
which is bigger.
Yeah. Well, my point is that that Mike Harcourt shit came first. He was the inventor of the shit, you know, and then when Gordon Campbell came, he just piled on new shit, you know,
right, copy paste.
But really, it all started back with the NDP, BC NDP, which loves to say that they're progressive, love to say that they're all about, you know, strong social policy, and yet they don't. They have the very limited memories. They don't want to admit, like, wow, in 1991 to 1996, we literally had the biggest bigot running the province.
Well, I'll give our listeners and our viewers, you know, an example, and I've mentioned this before, but it fits perfectly into this segment. Rant Rave, part 1. You know, you talk about the shelter, you know, and I want to see that damn thing scrapped. I mean, once and for all. Like, we need to just modernize it, get rid of it. Okay, politician, whoever gets into government, get rid of that damn shelter.
Yeah.
You can call it 375, 500, 550, whatever you want to call it. Because go down memory lane, 1989, as far as I can look back, it was actually at $275. In 1992, it went up to $325. And then in
but you know what? When it was 375 back in 1992, like the rents, you could still get a place for.
Oh yeah.
You could still get a place for maybe $400. It was.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty
exactly.
easy. It was pretty easy
or
to
even
find.
cheaper than that.
Or even cheaper than that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 275 in 1989, and then it went up in 1992 to 325. It stayed frozen until 2007. That's right, everyone. 1992 to 2007. It finally went up under the Gordon Campbell era. Yeah, it went up to 2007. And in 2007, Gordon Campbell raised the actual support and the shelter, both at the same time. Amazing. Mm-hmm. That can actually be done, both at the same time. Not enough, though. Yeah. You could not. You could barely rent a place for that amount, but you still have to use some of your support portion. Now, from 2007 at 375 till finally in 2023, last year, we're in 2024 right now, October 7th, 2024. But in last year, in the budget of 2023, the actual shelter rate finally went up after advocating for so many years. I would post out every single month, next month, and people couldn't believe it. Like, what? What's going on here? Of course, you know, we used to joke around. You know, I'd be known as the 375 guy, and I'd go to consultations, meetings, open houses, and tell them, like, this is not enough. You can't rent anywhere for 375. Oh yeah, no, we realize that. We got more to do. Yeah, keep advocating, keep holding our feet to the fire. Well, I've been doing that. How long did it take? It took from 2007 all the way to 2023 to finally raise it by $125.
That's 16 years, right, Brent?
Like, yeah, under two governments, though.
Did you see how I did the quick math there? 16 years.
16 years.
It took them to raise the rate. Yeah.
And then, so now we were still in a housing crisis. We still are this year. Mm-hmm. So this is from last year. So I'm going to base it on 2023. Like $125. So that went from $375 up to $500. You still got to use the majority of your support portion if you can even find a place. That was last year. If you could find a place for that full amount, check. You can't. This year, there was no increase. The cost of living is skyrocket. The rent prices, as we know, we're the most expensive jurisdiction in all of North America for housing, and all across Canada, where Metro Vancouver or Greater Vancouver, however people want to word it, very expensive for housing. You can't rent anywhere on a whole PWD check. Go down to Zumper. I'll give everyone a link. Go to Zumper.com, punch in the name of your city, and it'll tell you a whole listing of rental prices. Pick your platform that you want to look at for rentals. There's rentals.ca. I like Zumper.ca or Zumper.ca. I think it's Zumper.ca, might be .com, but whatever. You'll come up with it. Punch in your name of your city, and it'll bring up your rental listings. Try and find a place for $1,483.50 on that list. I looked, zero.
Yeah.
Then the government wonders why there's more homeless people in tents, people in PWD in tents. Why? Because legislated poverty. You can't rent anywhere for that price. So here's a solution.
And not only that, Brent. Sorry again. I don't want to derail your thought, but I was just thinking, like, you posted a little while ago about 7-Elevens closing left, right, and center too.
I did, yes.
And that is all connected. Like, shop owners and business owners of 7-Eleven and other stores, they're closing up because they don't want to deal with crime anymore. Like, the crime is just through the roof.
$400 per day.
Yeah. These are shop owners that are hiring extra, like, security guards, and they're investing in, like, all of these, like, video camera stuff. And even with all the extra video cameras and all the extra staff for security, they're still getting stolen from.
Well, and the same people keep coming back the same day. They'll go out.
So now you were saying you've lost like 3 7-Elevens in the Victoria area.
Yeah, a Subway restaurant in the area. Same thing. Just recently, apparently a printing shop has now just announced they're closing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we got here? People could say, "Wow, it's crime." Yeah, it's also the price of the rent goes up too. Because now property taxes, it's all intertwined with poverty. Like, poverty, it's not just a one size fits all. There's a lot of components built into this. And so, yeah.
And let's remind people that, again, we talked about Sonia Furstenow's platform on the last podcast quite a bit. So we almost don't need to talk about her platform, because we already said that her platform, the BC Green platform, is very well detailed. It talks about, it mentions the word poverty. It mentions the word disability more than once on both of those. Poverty and disability are mentioned more than once. If you look at the BC NDP policy or platform, disability is mentioned once in connection with the CDB, and they don't mention poverty at all. And just before you maybe want to play the clip with Bonita, let's talk about the BC Conservative platform.
Yeah. So everyone is wondering, well, where is the BC Conservative platform? They haven't released it yet.
They haven't even released it yet.
No, they haven't. And I was listening to a local radio station this morning, and the conversation came up saying, where's the BC Conservative Party platform? Well, they haven't come out with it yet. They said in days.
And
they didn't say how many days.
How far away are we from the election, Brent?
Well, today's the 7th of October, and the election's on the 19th. But they said in the coming days.
So in the coming days,
like that magic word, the coming days. Yeah,
so it's 12 days to the election, and so in the coming days, so maybe minus maybe 2 or 3 days again, because they said in the coming days. So
and I actually heard through the grapevine that apparently in the BC Conservative platform, when they do come out with it, there's not going to be no increase to PWD rates, and also they're not going to decrease it, but they're not going to increase it.
Right.
Wow.
So they might release their platform 10 days before the actual election. I mean, isn't that great? So they don't even have a platform, a public release platform now. That looks bad. I mean, as bad as the BC NDP platform is, that it only mentions disability one time. I mean, to not even release any platform at all.
That's not a good look. Definitely.
And the idea that the BC Conservatives are tied with the BC NDP just goes to show you how weird and desperate everything is. That
it's definitely is going to be a very interesting.
That you can be tied for the lead without even releasing any platform.
Well, it goes to show how much that the BC Conservatives really care for people with disabilities. I mean, we're residents, we're citizens. I mean, it's no fault of our own that we're disabled. I mean, if they weren't a politician, they could, they could still get disabilities, but they're just protected financially by their pensions. If they didn't have it, I mean, they're just gonna be just like you and I. I mean, it can happen at just like that. I mean, I saw a car accident just recently down where I live, and a person literally not even a foot and a half away almost got taken right out. Imagine their whole life would have been changed. Unfortunately, the person that was in the accident is now injured very badly, and so it changed their way of life. Now they're disabled. I don't know if they're going to go on income assistance or disability. I don't know. It could be long-term disability. Either way, again, things can happen in a person's life just like that. No fault of their own. You can be born with a disability. You can have invisible disabilities. Folks, like, vote for whoever you want. Obviously, in the election coming up. But if you have people in your life or family members, take into consideration of their well-being. Like, do you want the government to say there's more to do? There's more to do. There's always that carrot trick. There's more to do. It's kind of a delay tactic. That's all it really is, right? And I'm not saying telling people who to vote for, but really look at that and say who has your best interest overall. Like, overall, as a citizen, BC, if I had the opportunity right now to go to another province that actually respected people with disabilities, I mean, hell, I'd say, hey, Neil, a whole bunch of us, we'd all go. I'm sure. But you know what? This is where we live. So you need to take care of your citizens, your residents in your province. Stay on your pathway, everyone. Like government, meaning government, whoever forms government, focus on your residents. Don't worry about the federal government so much. And that's what you're based upon. Well, the federal government's going to do this. 4.5 years later.
Let's segue then to Bonita's clip, and we're going to kind of basically end the show on that, and we will do a part two at some point. But let's end the podcast with Bonita's clip.
Sure.
And then we'll wrap up with closing comments. So go ahead and play that.
Sure.
So I say 2 words, Mr. Speaker. Fix it. There is still time to do what is right. Mr. Speaker, persons with disabilities are continuing to live in poverty and no relief from this government. We have seen rents soar over the last year, pushing many Canadians out of the housing market and being unable to afford safe and adequate housing. For persons with disabilities, accessing housing that meets their needs is nearly impossible. Add discrimination on top of that, and more stories are coming out from across Canada about the reality of persons with disabilities having to live rough, living in the streets. We see it right here in Ottawa.
And across Canada. What Bonita has also said, which I'm going to pull up another little clip that'll kind of correspond with that. It's very important that that voices need to be heard when it comes to advocacy, regardless on what side of the fence that you're on, because people with disabilities, it affects their lives. Policy makers have designed these programs to keep people below poverty, right? We need to now modernize it. We need to change it. And then we'll be talking more into the Rant and Rave part 2 on that. And on future shows too. We'll be having other guests coming on and having other ideas of how to change things, or maybe their view of where they see things at, etc. And if you want to come onto the show and definitely talk about lived experience stories, please reach out to us. So here's another clip from Bonita Zarrillo. She's the MP for Port Moody, Coquitlam. She's in Ottawa. She is in Ottawa right now in the House of Commons. She's advocating. She's the critic for people with disabilities. And of course, we talked about this earlier in the show. A lot of bow and arrows thrown at her because people say, well, you voted for no more than $200. There's more to why that the NDP, federal NDP, voted in favor for that. There was other parties that voted also, not just them. And I'm not defending the federal NDP. The other parties also voted for that too, because there's more in the bill. And Bonita explained that too. And do I think that they should have not done that? Probably not, but they did. But there's more to the reason why they did that.
Yeah, and again, like I do feel that Bonita explained herself
she
really
explained
well,
it really well. Yeah,
really
she
well,
explained it really well.
and like I said, I admire that she's like, again, she takes the bows and arrows, and I admire her courage and her willingness to take those bows and arrows,
Absolutely,
and be willing to come on a podcast
yeah,
like yours and have a civil discussion about issues. I think it's really important, and
well, especially when I asked her, Neil, like I asked her, plain blank, like why, like I said to her, don't take this personally, but why, like why did you do that? And that was quite a blunt question, like why did you? It reminds me of like Vasi, that reporter, remember, like right, the minister, why would you do this? And again, I want people to understand this falls on the actual federal liberal minister who's in charge of the CDB, the Canada Disability Benefit. It was handed over to the current minister. I can never pronounce her name.
Kamal Kara.
Kamel Kara. Right?
Kara.
She took over for Carla Quantrill, who started the Canada Disability Benefit once upon a time when it was Bill C-35, and then it changed in because they called a snap election. The federal government. It got to the first reading, and then it turned into Bill C-22. It's now been sitting that way for 4.5 years, everyone. A promise that they committed to lifting people out of legislated poverty. Okay? 4.5 years later, imagine waiting, and this is not imagine, but for people listening to this, imagine in your life waiting 4.5 years for a promise.
Imagine
if you can't commit to a promise, then don't make a promise, right? And that's the way I look at things. Hey, Neil, I promise I'm going to do a podcast. I promise. Brent, when you do one, I promise I'm going to do one. When? I don't know. But I promise I will do one.
Maybe in 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, imagine. And it's like that delay. It's like that delay tactic. Do I think it's going to be an election issue? I think they're going to delay this until a federal election and use the disabled people as a carrot trick. But at the same time, before I play the clip, BC NDP is waiting on the Canada Disability Benefit for July of 2025. That is heavily means tested. It's got clawbacks in there. You've got the requirement to get a DTC in order to get it right now. That's one application. You got to do another application to get the Canada Disability Benefit. It's also set right now for household income. So if it's based on $23,000 household income. So if you got 2 PWD, you're not even going to have a heavy callback anyway. So like Mike Morris explained that in one video, and that'll be on part 2 of our Rant and Rave. I'll be pulling up the video and I'll give you a lowdown, and that's a 10-minute clip. So I'll play that, and we'll get that set up for people to listen to that very powerful speech.
It was very good.
To listen carefully what Mike has to say on that. But with that being said, I'm going to play a little clip here before we end the today's podcast. And it's of Bonita Zarrillo. Then we'll have our ending statements here. Okay. So here we go. Let's see if I can get this on the screen properly so everyone can see it.
What needs to be fixed?
Ooh, that's nice and loud. Anyway, yeah.
What needs to be fixed is simple to explain. $200 a month. Profoundly inadequate, hidden behind an inaccessible disability tax credit, totally unacceptable. No protection from clawbacks needs to be changed.
Yeah, it needs to be changed. And, like when I mentioned clawbacks, and that's exactly it. And with that being said, Mike Maurice is going to continue on with that conversation on his view of
and maybe
clawbacks.
On the part 2, I'll talk about what I've been busy with, Brent. We haven't even talked about it on today's episode, but already what I've been busy with, and we can talk about that on the part 2. But I just, before your closing comment, I wanted to be the first one to give my closing comment, and I hope, like, this whole show, shows like this have it. You can they can kind of devolve into just emotion, right? And maybe it did a little bit today, you know.
Rightfully so, though, Neil.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
But what I was going to say is that you know, if it appeared that I was attacking David Eby, you know, I can see that it might appear that way. I get that because again, I've put out a few shorts too that are pretty pointed towards David Eby. But again, the reason why is, at the end of the day, I'm always focused on the policy. I'm always focused on the bad policy, the shit policy, the poop emoji policy. I'm a poop emoji today. And
poop emoji, yes, I like that.
And we're focused on all the poop emoji policies, the shit policies.
But it's true. They're all shit. They're all shit.
They're all shit. And this is why we spent as much time as we did on Mike Harcourt.
Ancient shit.
Is because ancient shit. He was the grandfather of shit. He was the grandfather. He was the grandfather of all the shit. So from 1991 till now, 2024, it's been over 30 years of shit, and it all started with Mike Harcourt. And for whatever reason, I have no idea why, for whatever reason, you have David Eby now that wants to hitch his ride on an endorsement from Mike Harcourt, and it does not make sense to me. And I guess one of the advice I'll give to David Eby, if he cares to listen, is stop surrounding yourself with yes men. You know, to say yes sir, how high sir, how much sir, you know, all this yes men, you know, and like not giving David Eby any criticism at all. Like, he might not like the criticism that I'm giving him right now, but like, at least I'm giving him the truth. Like, I'm telling, like, you and I are both telling him, like, kind of, what are you doing hitching your ride to a bigoted premier from Christmas past? What are you doing, David Eby? What are you doing? Right? Like, I'm here. I'm actually trying to help you. I'm actually trying to help you to say, like, what are you doing, David Eby? Stop doing that. Like, stop surrounding yourself with yes men and start listening to the criticism and start caring about people with disabilities. And don't say it doesn't matter. Don't say it doesn't matter. Like, you know, like, he's all happy that, oh, wow, we're not going to be bullies and we're not going to claw back the CDB. Well, again, congratulations, you know, like who cares? Like, that's the bare minimum. Like, that is such a low bar. That is such a low bar.
I thought it was very interesting on the clip there of what Mike Harcourt said about income, that people, you know, they need income. and right away I'm thinking, well,
and yet he's the father of the clawback. And the father of, like, killing all the pensions for the disabilities. Yeah,
you know, and I look at it as, you know, as a summary, you know, to conclude today's podcast. You know, so 35 years, folks. I mean, 1989 to you know, 2024. In 35 years, the BC Disability Shelter rates. I mean, over time they called it different ministries, right? Ministry of Social Services, a Ministry of, like, social innovation, or whatever it was called. I mean, it keeps changing all the time. I don't even.
They're all stupid. They're all stupid names. They're all stupid.
Yeah, but from $275 in 1989, all the way till now, it's like $500 as of 2023. But there was no increase this year. No increase. Cost of living skyrocket. But hey, you know, we want to, you know, we hear you. You know, times are tough, apparently, in the platform. Times are tough. You know, people need help now. Apparently, they need relief right now. Well, yeah, that's what I said on a talk show on CKNW. When I called in, I asked the premier at that time. You're allowed to ask a question. And I was polite. I was very precise, very quick with my response. I managed to squeeze in a couple of questions all in 2 and 1. But I, you know, it was right to the point. And the question was, is that, hey, I got a rent increase, a 3.5% increase this year. My manager wants to know why I did not get an increase by the persons with disabilities increase on the support portion or the shelter portion. But at the end of the day, it's all one. You pay your rent anyway, so that's why I say get rid of the shelter. But anyway, the question is that why didn't I get the increase? There's well, we're doing our best. That was the response. Brent, we're doing our best on that.
Yeah.
We're doing our best on that. Well, that didn't answer my manager's question. Like, the question didn't come from me. It came from my manager.
Yeah.
Because she's very concerned, saying, well, how are you guys going to pay for this rent increase? I go, we're going to take it out of our food money. Yeah. So that means cut down to 2 meals a day, or you cut out your internet, cut down your service provider. I had to basically downgrade some of my ongoing expense per month. Cut down on
and
TV
so
and cellular.
David Eby's response there to you was very dismissive, right? And again, like, I'm sitting here, you're sitting here.
No surprise.
I'm sitting here and you're sitting here, and I'm telling David Eby right now, if he's listening or anybody connected to him is listening, I'm actually trying to do you a favor, David Eby. Like, I'm asking you legitimately, like, what are you doing hitching your ride to a ghost of Christmas past, this Mike Harcourt, who is by far the biggest bigot in the history of BC politics. Like, what are you doing, David Eby? What are you doing? Like, it's almost like you deliberately want to lose the election. Stop listening to yes men and start listening to criticism from me and Brent, because we are trying to help you. We're not idiots. Like, you and I are not idiots, Brent.
There's so many people.
We're trying to help. We're trying to help you, Mr. Eby.
David. There's so many people in the community that they'd love to speak up. I've asked a couple of them in the community to come on to the podcast. They're scared because they don't feel that their voice is going to be heard. They're camera shy, and that's fine. They don't want to be have their face shown when they want to come on the show. That's fine. We can accommodate that. You can still come on. Your voice can be heard. We can even muffle your voice if need be. There's technology. We can work with that. But you can get your voice out there, David. There's so many people that are hurting right now in BC. People with disabilities, right? I mean, age doesn't stop at 65 years old too. Just so you know, okay. So when people would have that disability designation, that means they are being medically assessed and designated by their family physician or their practitioner, whoever has designated them that way. Yeah. There used to be a pension. Just to summarize it, though, there used to be a pension. Let's bring it back that way. Let's listen to what reality is in people's lives. Let's change things back so that seniors have a pension. People with disabilities should have a pension because it was a pension. It's like a bus pass. They had a bus pass. It got taken away.
Yeah.
The former premier would be actually before he became premier. I remember in the legislature, I used to go there all the time. I used to be like saying, about the bus pass. And he carried on. You guys carried on all the time. Get back the bus pass. Get back the bus pass. Seniors have it. Yeah. And I went to rallies.
Yeah, and they guess what, part of their platform was to remove the clawbacks too, and they didn't do it. So they had the opportunity to get rid of a pile of shit. Like we're talking about shit today, right? They had an opportunity. John Horgan and company had an opportunity to get rid of a big pile of shit. He had an opportunity to get rid of a big pile of shit, and he said, well, no, I think this pile of shit is fine. We're just going to keep this pile of shit because it's always like this pile of shit has been around for 30, 35 years, and it's always worked. So we're just going to keep that pile of shit there.
Yeah. But you know what? But in recently, like, was it last year in 2023? Well, let's go through the regulations. Let's start monkeying around with all these regulations. Bill 7. Well, let's start tweaking it. Oh, look what we did. You know what? You and I probably could have designed the regulations better.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I could have completely redid the whole thing all at once, not just tweak it here and there.
Yeah.
Because it's not solving anything, right? It's keeping people in legislative poverty. And that's going to be on part 2. We're going to dive into a continuation of where we left off. I guess my ending statement is we'll be doing a part 2 before the next election, before the BC election comes up. So stay tuned and watch the channel for part 2 of Rant Rave. I hope you enjoyed today's segment. And again, it's all based on policies on who the leader is of the party who wants to change these archaic, pukey, archaic.
I know.
Shit. Archaic.
Yeah, they're
policies.
Poop emoji policies, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I went to so many town hall meetings. I went to so many consultations, and they asked about lived experience stories. We went to so many different. There was one that the minister had on too. The minister had one on saying, what do you want to see changed? Yes. But it was so moderated. It was so moderate. You couldn't even communicate with the actual minister. You actually had to say what you want to see done, and they put you into a separate Zoom room. Yeah, it's like a blank room, nobody in there. It's like, hello, anyone hear me? But
padded room.
Yeah. But you know what? We can. We're gonna work on these things too. But I guess. But it comes down to lived experience stories. And the minister says, well, but the only thing that she heard really coming out with what people wanted was a job. They just wanted a job. Yeah. That was the best thing that was suited. Is a job going to salute as a solution to people's needs? No, lift them out of legislated poverty by raising the rates. If they can do that, great. If they can't, they need to have that base platform in place. A job's not always the solution. Like Tom, Laughing Tom, I always call him Laughing Tom, but he's the basic income guy. Yeah. He talks about these things too. I mean, the endless possibilities of a person had the revenue in place. If they were able to be an entrepreneur or they had they could go and work somewhere, great. If you can't, you have to have that basic income in place. Is that where we're going to be going eventually, folks, down the road? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. But in the meantime, get people up to above the poverty level.
Bring back pensions and the clawbacks. That were both started by the wonderful Mike Harcourt. It
all started then.
The ghost of Christmas past. Again, I am not attacking David Eby. As much as it looks like I'm attacking David Eby, I'm not attacking him. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help him. Like, sincerely, I'm trying to help him. Like, listen to me. Listen to Brent. We are trying to help you. Stop listening to yes men saying it's okay to be a bully to all the disability people in the province.
David, we're telling you that these policies that were written archaically decades ago, and then when I gave an example going back to 89, David, 89 at $275 a shelter. What did that tell the government at that time going 35 years forward? Wow, $225 increase in 35 years. That's nothing to congratulate any government. No. It doesn't matter what stripe they're at. Any government could have changed these things going forward. I saw it. I used to have these discussions with my mom. My mom would say, Brent, the government's going to make sure that people with disabilities have money going forward to have their basic needs met. I said, and what happens if they don't? Oh, don't look at the negative, she says. They will. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I used to talk to instructors in college about this. And I tell you, we were talking about economics because we did economics 101. And we were talking about the economy and stuff. And it was interesting. I'm not even going to get into all these discussions, but talking to people with lived experience. My mom went through a lot of hard times. It was not easy. And I tell you, she said they're supposed to take care of their citizens. Yeah. It's just people with disabilities, Brent, they have a pension. And that was before I got my disability.
Yeah.
Oh, really? She says, like it's a pension. So
I wish I had the pension now.
And I kept fighting with my mom about it. I said, well, I don't want to apply for it. Then fine, don't whine and grumble. She says, then go and hurt yourself on the job. Go and do what, and then eventually you're going to find, or you're going to find in time in life that you're not going to be able to do what you used to be able to do. And I used to put my mind over matter. I pushed myself. Finally, one time I came back and my mom says, I made an appointment with you for you to go and see the doctor. I was mad. I was extremely mad. Like I'm not even going to repeat the language that what I said. My mom actually, I know, and I was an adult at the time. My mom, she said, she got her hand like this, and I went, oh, like I look at her, and I knew when she put her hand up, she was so mad, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? You gonna hit me or something? She goes, no, I'm not gonna hit you. I'm just put my hand up in frustration. She said that I didn't listen. I didn't listen. That was the key word. Listen. I didn't listen to her, and I didn't listen to my doctor. My doctor encouraged me to apply at that time. I was stubborn. I said, no, I don't want that. I want to be independent. I want to be able to basically make my own money. And when I made enough, it still wasn't enough because the cost of living was going up. My mom was struggling. I had to help her out, not knowing that the government was clawing back her money.
I didn't even know that that disability pensions were a thing until they were gone. I didn't either. Until I couldn't apply for it anymore. It was like,
I didn't know either until my doctor one time told me, and I had gone in because I had a really bad allergy season at the time, and he'd gone in and says, have you considered about applying for disability pension, Brent? No, I said I used to have arguments with my mom. Yes, I know, and I can't talk to you about patient confidentiality, he said. But your mom's very concerned about you, very concerned, and I'm concerned with you as your practitioner. You're having some issues in life that you just have to face and work with the best way you can. And I know what your weaknesses. I know what your strengths are. I know what your weaknesses. I probably know you better than you know yourself. I go, I could differ with you on that. Actually, you know what? He says, actually, I wanted to see where you're at with that, with your way you're thinking. And he goes, yes, you know yourself better than I know you. And I go, right. I said, that is true. And he goes, but you need to look at applying for it. So I put it off. I put it off, Neil, until the time that unfortunately Mr. Harcourt decided to take it away. And when I was ready to apply for it, and I thought that the pension was still there. I didn't know it was gone. I applied and I was told, not pension. And then the worker at the time said, yeah. She said they were here, but unfortunately the government decided to take it away. I go, why? Brent, I just work here. I don't ask questions. That was their decision. That doesn't make any logical sense to me, I said. And my mom says, Brent, don't be disrespectful. I go, well, the guy must be an idiot. I said, to take away pensions. Did they take away your pension, Mom? Well, no, I'm a senior. And the worker said, Brent, they don't take away seniors' pensions. It's about being respectful. They won't take away your mom's pension.
They only take away pensions for the people with disabilities.
I said, that's what I said. So what? You're disabled? They take away pensions because you're disabled? So anyway, that ends today's segment, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope that nobody's taking this session as a bashing of the former premier of BC, the leader of the NDP. It's all about policies, like Neil mentioned too. This is all about letting everyone know that policies affect people's lives, and who the leader is, who has that control of changing the policy and directing their ministers, whatever ministry it is, to change direction and go through their agenda. They all get an agenda when they're a minister of tackling what it is, the tasks that they need to do while they're the minister. And one of those tasks is to end legislated poverty, right? And if it isn't, it needs to be in there, effective immediately. So when whoever minister it is, needs to be put in there. So if it's the Green Party, it's BC NDP, it's the BC Conservatives. Again, BC Green Party, Sonia, first note, you're the only one. You get the gold star. You get the gold star because you're the only leader who is saying that they're going to raise the rates up to minimum $2,400 a month from what they are right now. She wants to lift people out of legislative poverty. David, do you wonder if you could do that? Hey, John, could you do that? John Rustad. Oh, wait a minute. You don't even have a platform out yet. But I know that you don't want to do that because you haven't mentioned anything in your talking speeches going around the province about legislated poverty. You're probably hearing about cost of living. Yes, I think we could all agree cost of living is high. What about people with disabilities, John Rustad? Are you going to eliminate? You're going to copy Sonia Furstenau's platform?
Yeah.
Left people out of legislated poverty? How about you, David Eby? Are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Here's a challenge. I want to see if you guys are going to do that. Make it happen. Come on, let's do it. Come on.
Because otherwise,
it really is not a good look.
It's not a good look, and I want people to when this airs, like I said, it'll air probably around 3:00 today with live chat, and I want to see people leave their poop emojis.
Yeah.
Their
poop emojis.
Their shit emojis, like the shirt. I want people to and so that David Eby knows and Sheila Malcolmson knows and the other leaders know. Like we said, I think Sonia Furstenau already knows because her platform is very clear. But John Rustad and David Eby, they're both lost because they're not. Like one leader, John Rustad, doesn't even have a.
He doesn't even have a platform.
Doesn't even have a platform.
It boggles my mind that
and Eby only mentioned disability one time. So yeah.
And they're waiting on the Canada Disability Benefit, which is completely inaccessible.
Yeah.
So why wait on that where they know that the chance that that's even going to get fixed? And what happens if it doesn't get fixed? So we have to keep on waiting. Yeah, there's more to do. No. Yeah. So you can amend your platform, right? You can add that in there, David. I'm sure your people, whoever's working on that, maybe, or actually, here's a thought before we end the show. Maybe they forgot, Neil. Do you think maybe they forgot to put in there about raising the rates?
No, I always tell you it's accidentally on purpose, right?
Accidentally on purpose.
Everything is always accidentally on purpose. Yeah.
But here's a chance to amend it, though. Here's a chance to fix it.
Yeah.
You're going to gain a lot of voters if you actually fix up your platform, David. I'm sure.
Fix your piles of shit.
Change the policy.
This is my shirt. Fix your piles of shit. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Stay tuned to Rant Rave Part 2 coming up very soon. And I promise it will be before the next BC election on October 19th. Definitely, it will be coming up very soon. It'll actually, most likely, it'll be next week when Part 2 will air.
Okay.
I've got some medical appointments to do this week, but definitely it'll be airing. We might actually even air it out. Maybe it could be broadcasted out on Saturday. Like it might get pushed out on a Saturday.
Sure.
So if I can squeeze in some time later this week to do the podcast, and then it'll get aired out. If not, it'll be next week. We have a guest coming up very shortly before the next provincial election too. So maybe I'll get people's ears perked up. Ooh, who's that?
I hope people like this one though.
It's for the BC Green Party, and his name's Chris Markovich.
Oh, okay.
He's going to be coming on to the podcast. I asked him to reach out to you, Neil. So he's going to email you, and going to get him arranged to come on.
That's good.
Yeah. And then so it's either the podcast for Part 2 of Rant Rave will either be before him or it'll be after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
stay tuned. It's going to be a great bunch of shows coming up, and cast your vote. Vote very carefully on who you feel is going to be best selected for you as a voter in BC. And keep in mind, persons with disabilities will be affected with your voting results. Mm-hmm. And if you are a person with disabilities, be very candid on who you feel is going to be best suited to represent you as the leader in BC. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.